Pokemon is a product of Satoshi Tajiri's autism, causing him to hyperfixate on video games and bug catching. In the original idea for Pokemon, you were planning to use weapons to fight in the battles yourself, but then Tajiri decided that if you did that, what's the purpose of having Pokemon? That's why several of the trainer sprites in Red and Blue hold whips. In the original versions of the game, there was a charm mechanic that you used to catch wild Pokemon instead of weakening them. While the modern Game Freak team has upwards of 151 employees, when Red and Green originally came out, the team consisted of entirely 9 people. The entire Game Freak team comes from Satoshi Tajiri getting obsessed with arcade games and making his own magazine titled Game Freak. Ken Sugimori, lead art director for Pokemon, found the Game Freak comic and reached out to Tajiri. The two soon bonded over their love of arcade games. The idea of those two creating games came from them discussing how similar most arcade games are and what they do differently. Soon some other fans of the comic who were programmers reached out to them, and the rest is history. In early sketches of Pokemon, all creatures had a gold value, presumably so you could sell them for the currency that existed before they used Pokédollars. Those same sketches also include a female protagonist, and it is not known why that wasn't introduced until Crystal. If I had to guess, I would say technical limitations. Junichi Masuda created all of the music, sound effects, and Pokemon cries on his home computer, then transferred it to the Game Boy using a software that he wrote himself. The Game Boy was already on a decline when Red and Green came out in Japan, so no one expected that Pokemon would do well. People thought the JRPGs wouldn't sell well in the West, so Game Freak had no plans to release Pokemon outside of Japan originally. The biggest and most unforeseen challenge in localization was that English text takes up more space than Japanese, so moving the dialogue, name screen, and Pokedex were far bigger challenges than expected. Pokemon faint instead of dying because Tajiri doesn't like how modern games treat dying with so little respect that a kid will say, "I'm dying," casually when they're getting close to losing. There's an unused battle system in the data for Pokemon Yellow that says, "Hurry, get away," if you try to select anything other than run. This is likely what you would have used if you managed to get into a battle with no Pokemon. There's data in Red and Blue for another HM, and text in the Japanese version of Red saying ground rose up somewhere, implying that the extra HM would somehow manipulate terrain. The Lake of Rage was originally a full town complete with a gym, and that's probably why it's a fly location. The original seasons of the anime are so weird because in addition to being dubbed by 4Kids, they were written by a guy who was eternally drunk and or high. You can fish, surf, and catch Pokemon in every single statue in Red and Blue. Due to Azrael having a different gender ratio to the rest of the line, prior to Gen 6 it could change gender when it evolved. Meryl could be trans, and I find that hilarious. Magneton is somehow 10 times heavier than Magnetite, even though it is literally 3 Magnemites stuck together. There's a trainer in Pokemon X and Y who says in Japanese, "I was a Karate King just half a year ago. The power of medical science is amazing, wouldn't you say?" implying that she's a trans woman. This is a lot less implied in the English version by the fact that the Karate King trainer class was changed to Black Belt, and then it was no longer attributed to medicine, but Black Belt is still an exclusively male class. You can use TCG or VGC tournaments to get into the Royal College of Art in London. Well, I know where I'm headed. There's a character in Ruby and Sapphire named Kiri who gives the player 2 berries a day. She is named after Masuda's own daughter, who was born near the end of development. There's a completely official book known as the Pokedex released alongside Red and Green that was sadly never localized, containing alternate Pokemon entries, Pokemon biology, and more. The lore in that book contains an introduction that goes all the way back 2 million years ago. According to that book, Professor Nishinomori wrote a paper titled An Observation on the Evolution of Pikachu, describing how 2 Pokemon were once thought to be entirely different species, but one is just the evolved form of another. That professor's name is a combination of Koji Nishino and Ken Sugimori. Together those names combine to mean Westwood. There are 9 Pokemon classifications based on habitats: grassland, mountain, forest, water's edge, seas, enigmatic, urban, extinct, and legendaries. Arcanine is treated as a legendary Pokemon, which is likely connected to the fact that in the actual in-game Pokedex, it's classified as a legendary Pokemon. This book makes frequent references to the real world, such as saying that Ponyta is able to leap Tokyo Tower in a single bound. Alright, Superman. This entire book treats itself like an actual documentation of real events, and I find that incredibly cool. Mankey is always angry because he doesn't eat enough chalk, I mean because he doesn't get enough calcium. Professor Westwood was experimenting on his primate trying to extract its rage, when he shrunk it down so small it could fit in a glasses case. This created the idea for the Pokeball. Hitmonchan contains the spirit of a pro boxer, probably a reference to the fact that his Japanese name, Ebiwaller, was a reference to, Hiroyuki Ebihara, who passed away during development of the game. Even though breeding wasn't introduced until Gen 2, this book includes lines about how Nidoran female lays eggs, but the rest of its line can't. Vulpix is thought to be related to regular foxes, implying a common ancestor. This book makes several references to Pokemon that are able to distinguish colors, which implies that just like many animals, most Pokemon are colorblind. Authorities are investigating how the Game Corner is able to sell Porygon, even though it's really rare. People are working on finding a way to remove the toxicity from wheezing, which is foreshadowing glaring wheezing almost 25 years before Sword and Shield. The classic Pokedex entry of a child turning into a Kadabra is now shown to be a fictional story. Drowsy is a descendant of the Baku, a creature from Japanese folklore, which means that creatures of myth also exist in the Pokemon world. Arbok and Raticate hate each other. Cloyster survived being hit with a napalm bomb. I really want to know how someone saw that. Ancient Central and South Americans worshipped Dodrio. People refer to Tentacruel as the gangster of the sea, a fact we would know if you've seen the anime episode Tentacool and Tentacruel, meaning that the anime took inspiration from this book, even if the games didn't. The Phoenix is not in the Pokemon world, as evidenced by the fact that it is based on Moltres, apparently. Dratini was the first legendary Pokemon ever discovered when one lucky person in the Safari Zone caught it. Dragonite is the god of destruction and can fly around the world in 16 hours. I wonder if they can also rewind time by flying around backwards.